Hello students, I am Rajashri ma'am and this is the third part of the explanation of the story, The Coming of Pollyanna, and by Eleanor H. Porter. Pollyanna is an 11-year-old girl, and she has come to stay with Aunt Polly, and she has been received by Nancy and Timothy from the station. And she was asked that she had any trunk or not, and after that she answered, "Yes, I have," nodded Pollyanna importantly. I have got a brand new one. She is very happy. It is shown by the sentence that I have got a brand new one. The ladies' aid bought it for me, and wasn't it lovely of them when they wanted the carpet so? She didn't give any reference to the context of ladies' aid or their carpet. But she went on saying that they needed a carpet for themselves, but they gave her the trunk instead of it. Of course, I don't know. So they were very lovely. Of course, I don't know how much red carpet a trunk could buy, but it ought to buy some. Anyhow, much as half an aisle. Don't you think? She started thinking that how much was the difference between the cost of a trunk and a red carpet. But she was sure that the cost of the trunk would buy them a carpet which could cover the half of the passage. Aisle is the passage or corridor. Don't you think? I have got a little thing here in my bag that Mr. Gray said was a check, and that I must give it to you before I would get my trunk. I have one thing to give you in my bag, and that is Mr. Gray had given me. This is called check. Check, by which we can withdraw money from the bank. Here, the spelling of the check is America. The Eleanor H. Porter is an American novelist. That is why she has used the American spelling of check. And that I must give it to you before I could get my trunk. Mr. Gray is Mrs. Gray's husband. I came east with them and they are lovely. She has come with Mr. Gray and had come Mr. Gray and with Mr. Gray and Mrs. Gray, and there here it is. She finished producing the check after much fumbling in the bag she carried, and she fumbled. That means searched it clumsily. Fumbling means doing something clumsily, and she searched it and produced it to Nancy. Because she thought that Nancy was Aunt Polly, Nancy drew a long breath. Instinctively, she felt that someone had to draw one after the speech. She thought she became breathless because of so much talking of Pollyanna. But Pollyanna was not breathless at all. But Nancy drew a long breath, deep breath. Um, then she stole a glance at Timothy. Timothy's eyes were studiously turned away. But Timothy was not looking at her because he was alarmed that this girl could be a mischief to Aunt Polly. The three were off at last with Pollyanna's trunk in behind and Pollyanna herself snugly ensconced between Nancy and Timothy. But Pollyanna was not at all nervous. She got herself seated between Timothy and Nancy very conveniently, during the whole process of getting started. The girl had kept up an uninterrupted stream of comments and questions until the somewhat dazed Nancy found herself quite out of breath trying to keep up with her. And during her journey to Aunt Polly's house from the station, she went on talking in an uninterrupted manner. That means without any pause, because she had not been stopped by anyone for talking so much. But Nancy became breathless for her so much talking, and breath trying to keep up with her. There, isn't this lovely? Is it far? I hope it's I love to ride, sighed Pollyanna as the wheels began to turn. And she went on talking and went on questioning, and she didn't actually wanted any reply from anyone. uh, of course, if it isn't far, I shall not mind, though, because I will be glad to get there all the sooner, you know. And she asked herself that it is it a long way, and then she replied herself that no, maybe it is far, but I love riding. I love riding. I'll be glad to there all the sooner. But I will be. I love riding, but I would be happier if I could get there sooner. What a pretty street! I knew it was going to be pretty. Father told me. At this point, she stopped with a little choking breath. Now her voice had choked because Nancy looking at her apprehensively. Nancy looked at her anxiously, saw that her small chin was quivering and that her eyes were full of tears. At that time, she was also breathless. That means Pollyanna, because of the mention of her expired father. Her chin was quivering. Quivering means trembling, and her eyes were full of tears. In a moment, however, she hurried on with a brave lifting of her head. But at the after a moment, she controlled herself, her emotion, and looked up. I am sure it will be easier because I have got you, Aunt Polly. I am so glad I have got you, said Pollyanna. And now she declared clearly that she was mistaken, Nancy, as Aunt Polly. And this is the revision questions. Who had Pollyanna traveled east with? Pollyanna had traveled east with Mr. Gray and Mrs. Gray. Pollyanna's small chin was quivering and her eyes were full of tears. Why? Because she remembered her father and her emotion had come out. There are the reference to context. The telegram says light hair, red checked gingham dress and straw hat. That is all I know, but I think it is sufficient for your purpose. Who said these lines and to whom? It is obvious that Aunt Polly had said these lies to Nancy. Who was the person in the red checked gingham dress? Uh, it is also obvious that Pollyanna is the person who was in red checked gingham dress. Why did the speaker say this? The speaker says this because she had never telegram had given these descriptions to her because she had never seen Pollyanna herself, and she had to, so she described it to Nancy so that she could recognize her. I hope for her sake she is quiet and sensible and doesn't drop things nor bang doors. um, who said this line and to whom? Nancy said these lines to Timothy. Where was the speaker where he had said this line? She had said this line when she was at the station. Why did the speaker hope that she should be quiet and sensible? The speaker hoped that she should be quiet and sensible because Aunt Polly is an angry lady, is rather easily irritable lady, and she didn't like noisy kids, and that is why if the girl would be calm and composed or quiet and sensible, then she would be happier. Of course, if it isn't far, I shall not mind, though, because I will be glad to get there all the sooner, you know. What a pretty street! I knew it was going to be pretty. Who said this line and to whom? Um, Pollyanna said this line to Nancy and Timothy. Where was the speaker? Sorry, no, only Nancy, because she was mistaken her as Aunt Polly. Where was the speaker going? The speaker was going to Aunt Polly's house. How did the speaker know that the street was going to be pretty? The speaker knew that the streets were going to be pretty because her father told her. And this much is the is for this episode, and I'll be back and give the question answers in the description afterwards, after 1 or 2 days, and you can see them from there. And till then, bye. Thank you, students.